So, I read the book, and the thing is, I don't think it's gonna be like the movie. Part 1, How to Sell Something Vile. In 1987, Andrea Serrano created the piece Immersion, which is one of those many art pieces that's much more interesting to talk about compared to appreciating it on its own. Immersion, somehow, won the award in visual arts competition held by the Southeast's Center for Contemporary Art and sponsored by the National Endowment of the Arts. Serrano would go on to have a fruitful career in producing striking political portraits with occasional series focused on nothing but profanity. There's a sense that in a number of series, Serrano wants to see how far he can push it, the audience, the art world. In 1987, he found a breaking point. Afterwards, everyone forgot about the art. By the way, this is Immersion.
Gigi?
Serrano has defended the validity of the piece, also known as Piss Christ, numerous times over the years of his career, discussing the work's connections to the reality of crucifixion or the modern church's disregard of the sanctity of Christ and God's creation. But overall, I think the piece is weak, partly because I think Andreas is lying. Immersion pretends to be a mirror which we may look upon and ponder, but by at least some intention from the artist, so much of the pondering happens separate from the piece itself. It does not do much work besides just trying to be shocking. Then it asks us, well, what did you think? Assuming it has said something, assuming there was some concrete, important meaning to the work before it was put on film and shown to the world. The public outcry, like later works from Miley Cyrus or Lil Nas X, shifted the value of the art away from aesthetic quality deep into morality. We can't talk about if the work should exist because it's bad anymore, because anyone who cares about art is on the defense. The work being poorly executed doesn't matter anymore because people have thoughts and ethics about it. They start using the art as a way to criticize the politics they despise, or worse, an overall ungodly world at large.
I think comforting art is art that is very easy to react to.
The goal of Immersion, along with a fair bit of Serrano's work, is to get others to stop discussing the art object in and of itself and instead speak about the world which created it. The works rest upon the assumption we will not experience, but rather interpret the work into existence completely separate from the initial conversation between artist and viewer, mediated by the initial art object. Much of the work's quality, in turn, is temporal and finite. The artist here has conceptualized a plaything in his head and, like a toy grenade, tossed it into the crowd just to see how rationally they'll react.
I might be tempted to say that the Serrano's Piss Christ is comforting art, in that everybody knows exactly what they think about it. They're not challenged in the slightest.
It's Tyler, the Creator, and his early albums. It's Catalan's Comedian, or Him. It's the one woman with the world's only invisible labubu. It's shock art. All of these artists, of course, knew what they were doing. They didn't want to make something beautiful or lasting. They wanted a flash in the pan, and they got it. And it's Emerald Fennell. Why is it Emerald Fennell?
If continually people look and always come away enriched, then it's a great work. But it takes time, you see, to discover this, that it's not just flavor of the month or flavor of the year.
Part 2, Promising. Emerald Lily Fennell is an English actress, filmmaker, and writer. I know this because it says so on her Wikipedia. She began with the acting, which is pretty good. Then she acted as the showrunner for season 2 of Killing Eve, which is very important to me. Then, after a short film for Sundance, she made a movie. Her script beat out Sound of Metal for an Oscar and made a modest profit at the box office. The GOAT, Chloe Zhao, ended up with the Best Picture and Best Director awards, but Fennell was nominated for those too, all for her debut picture, Promising Young Woman. I know this movie means a lot to a lot of people, and I'm going to be mean about it. To paraphrase Susan Sontag, I will not be discussing what this movie means, but rather what it is, how it is what it is, how this film operates as a whole, the effect it has on the work. If you love this work, let me know why in the comments, and dislike the video and then leave right now. Don't waste your time with me. Yes, I care about art, but I also care about your general abstract well-being. I'm going to be mean. I do not like this movie. I am glad if it brings you any comfort, if you connect with it on any level. Okay, let's go. Promising Young Woman follows ex-med student Cassie Thomas almost a decade after the death of her friend Nina Fisher, which followed after Nina was raped. After her death, Cassie becomes the sole arbiter of Nina's pain and begins hanging around bars, acting incredibly drunk and confronting the men who attempted to take advantage of her inebriation. Cassie meets an old classmate at her workplace, attempts to move on with her life, fails, hatches a revenge plan, and is murdered in a dragged-out suffocation sequence via pillow before the police bring about justice for all. Roll credits. Within this plot, Cassie is stuck and slowly builds the strength and strategy she needs to escape. It's a revenge plot, like any other. Cassie is fixated on a goal. This goal inhibits her ability to do anything else. When she gives in to the goal, she becomes an avatar of revenge. But unlike other revenge stories, Cassie fails. She is not allowed to continue to move on. This is the point. This is the shock. This is the catharsis. Cassie's life ends the moment Nina is assaulted. She has a friendly boss and a family trying their best, but Cassie does not want to get better, so she doesn't. The assault becomes the purpose of her life, the centering force. She embraces and fosters the pain, and she has no need, no chance to recover. While in real life, recovery is difficult, but a necessary process from even the most devastating forms of harm, most terrible acts of violence, Fennell offers a path separate from recovery. This is the fantasy. What if you didn't have to be respectable? What if you didn't need to work hard to get better? What if you didn't have to get better? What if you didn't have to be a woman? Promising Young Woman is not a feminist story, but it is a woman's story. Apostrophe before the S. It's Fennell's story, which a lot of people, especially women, have connected with and found catharsis in. The director takes up desires and fantasies the fans of the movie intimately know and feel, and she locks them in a character who cannot be allowed to change. Cassie cannot find any lasting good in the world. She must remain a doll, have the world thrown upon her, and accomplish her goal only through her own destruction. The only people she is able to enact revenge upon are Madison McPhee and Elizabeth Walker, both women, and in both cases she tricks them into believing another person was raped. Then, and only then, not the years of regret and attempts to do better, be better for others, does Cassie believe for a moment justice has been served. Justice, after all, must walk hand in hand with suffering, with pain, with fear. The way to take on rape culture in Fennell's story is not interpersonal reconciliation, but external revenge. Fennell provides Cassie with one impossible path to healing, and she fails. We are supposed to be shocked by this failure, but Cassie never had a chance. Her pain is impossible to live with. Cassie designed it to be so, and so she doesn't. Most of my dislike for Promising Young Woman is just rooted in personal taste. I don't find stories about sexual assault super entertaining or fun to watch, which I know, super normal, but I'm also not a huge fan of these sorts of parable stories either. Fennell made something shocking. I was shocked by it on my original watch. My friends found comfort in it when it came out. My gender studies classmates didn't find it to be a feminist text. It doesn't have to be a feminist text, of course, and while I prefer my protagonists to be able to enact change, if not on the world, then in themselves, that's not how Cassie is or was supposed to be in this movie. My sister watched Sorry Baby and found it to be slow and underwhelming. I watched Promising Young Woman and figured Fennell could do better. Expected that this talented writer would one day make a movie to be cherished. It's a matter of taste, I think, mostly. She really was promising after all. Then A few years later, in a sparsely filled theater on a Tuesday night, I watched Saltburn.
And there's quite a lot of art, you see, that gives that instant satisfaction of feeling that I know I can judge this without having to look, without having to take trouble. I just know because it's so obvious. That's comforting.
Part 3, The Dollhouse. Saltburn was Fennell's highly anticipated follow-up picture with twice the budget and twice the murdering of women. The film centers on university students Oliver and Felix, who hold different social and economic class statuses, but become friends after Oliver lends Felix his bike.
Take my bike.
Felix invites Oliver to his family's house, dubbed Saltburn, after Oliver shares that his father died, and they revel in homoerotic opulence until Felix discovers Oliver has been lying to him. Oliver is not poor. His dad is not dead. Felix quite rationally tells Oliver he needs to tell the truth to his family, so Oliver kills him. While the family is in mourning, he also kills Felix's sister, Venita, and later his mother, Elspeth. The film ends with Oliver dancing around Saltburn Manor naked to murder on the dance floor. It is not very good, but it is pretty fun. Like Emo the Musical or The Room, Saltburn is a movie you should laugh at. The problem, though, is because this is Fennell's second film, her presence as a filmmaker begins to solidify in the similarities between her works. And these elements that have started to crystallize the aesthetics of an Emerald Fennell film do not make for interesting repeated viewings. The most obvious repeated element in Saltburn is Fennell's depictions of violence against women. Her women are not really allowed to have agency, only violence inflicted upon them. While there is a powerful cathartic terror in watching Cassie's failure in death in real time, the world does not offer enough justice for those who have faced sexual assault. There is little struggle in Oliver's killings of Venita or Elspeth. It is clear that there was struggle in his killing of Felix, but Venita is killed exposed in a bathtub, death staged like a suicide. The final blow to Elspeth is made while she lies in a hospital bed. The women are helpless in Saltburn. The women are helpless in Promising Young Woman. The women are helpless in Emerald Fennell films. It could have been everyone, but it isn't. The winners in Emerald Fennell's films end up being those who hold power in our world, obfuscating the power and positions they hold in real life. In turn, the movies rely on an audience buying into Fennell's specific anxieties. These anxieties then pair with the fairy tale outcomes which render Fennell's fears at least somewhat grounded in reality. Promising Young Woman ends with the fairy tale of the police saving the day and successfully responding to a crime of sexual assault, when in reality, the punitive response to gendered violence is minimal. The cops running in and arresting everyone? An added fantasy to appease financiers. The original idea was to have Cassie just kill everyone. The real bloody, quote, big fuck you cathartic ending. But Fennell put the line of realism before the scene. In her world, the only true ending is centered on Cassie's death. Justice can only come after the woman is dead. Successes in her films follow the same rule. It is, really, a fantasy of justice Fennell seems so enraptured by. In her stories, those perpetrating rape culture will face retribution at the hands of the police, and the middle class have the means and capacity to eat the rich as independent actors. But the world does not work like this. This does not happen. There is a dissonance in her fantasy as it clashes with the realism of what's plausible, of what can actually happen. It's fiction, I get it. But Fennell's stories feed into relevant anxieties to reestablish dominant hierarchies. The rich should fear those with less. They are dangerous. The police ought to be trusted. The institution is synonymous with justice. But Fennell is not a satirist. I believe her work would be better if she stopped trying to be one. This is the core of the Emerald problem. While in most stories, characters react, respond, and grow in the worlds they inhabit, Emerald writes puppets in a parable. She writes and films movies we are supposed to interact with as at least a little political, gives interviews priming the viewer to interact with her works as political.
It seems to me to be the place where kind of sex and class and longing all collide.
She offers up something initially shocking that just as quickly loses its luster. It doesn't have to make sense, it just needs to look good. To put it plainly, Fennell hopes what is said in her works is not nearly as important as how. She knows it, I know it. She put it in this movie.
It's completely valid to debate the rhetoric of an argument. It's not what you argue, but how.
Great point.
Sharing some problems with Promising Young Woman and further solidifying Fennell's work as something not to hold high expectations for, Saltburn did mark a step forward in Fennell's filmmaking. The film's frustrating 4:3 ratio creates a wonderful visual tension between the stunning Saltburn manner and the characters that stand in the way. And Fennell's language of sexual domination is still something I think about. And that's not to mention a continued pattern of incredible actors and a tightly woven, always moving script. Fennell is a strong director, and it's clear she can write with style, but the politics of her movies breaks them apart. The politics render the film shocking and ugly and disappointing. Let me take a step back to talk about this language of sexual domination. Throughout Saltburn, the idea of familial blood comes up a lot. Oliver, being a guest, is completely removed from this blood and is dismissed because of it. He's treated like an object, something to be studied and cared for, and it's clear he hates this. The most memorable, shocking parts of the film center on his slow ascent of status in the Catton household. First, at his lowest, he laps up Felix's semen from the bottom of his bathtub. The sexual act is completely removed from Felix, but still, Oliver takes in a part of him. Next, Oliver performs oral sex on Venita while she is on her period, now literally taking in the family's blood. Venita in turn calls him a vampire, which becomes a sort of prophecy. Oliver advances on Felix's cousin Farley, and when those advances are turned down, he frames Farley for intending to steal from Saltburn, which leads to his dismissal. Rejection, sexual or otherwise, is immediately followed by violence. Days later, after Felix discovers the truth about Oliver and rejects him as a friend, Oliver kills him and has sex with the earth above his body. Oliver has moved from being barely worth Felix's expulsions to now dominating, visually being above Felix. Because he sees himself as having more status than Felix, he kills Venita after a rejected sexual advance and is promptly dismissed from Saltburn because of, the grief. Years later, after her husband dies, Oliver meets Elspeth again, and they remark on the family's deaths. Oliver kills her, and free from his need to perform, revels in all he took from the family. He came, he conquered. Oliver, like Cassie, does not change in the decade between an inciting incident and the end of the film. The characters are carved from wood and set as the point from which the parables ought to revolve around. Promising Young Woman tells us rape in the surrounding culture is violent and harms us all. Good politics. Saltburn, though? If Saltburn has a moral, it's to not trust the poor, but not even really the poor. Saltburn teaches us not to trust those with less wealth, less status. It tells us people only act as if they are on their best behavior, that everyone is always out for something. These are vile characters puppeted irrationally, depicting anxieties that, at least in Saltburn, have no grounding in reality. This is Fennell's world, and if you appreciate it, great. Glad you like it. But like The Departed, I just can't get over all the moments, all the elements that don't work, that clash, that put forward a politic and a worldview I believe is unhelpful or irresponsible. And yet, despite all this, I know Fennell can craft a world and write a story and make a damn fun movie. I believe she can make a really fantastic one too. I think she has that in her. And so, I'm still cautiously hopeful for Wuthering Heights.
But that's comforting art, you see, because it's so easy to have an opinion and a reaction. Everyone thinks they can do it.
Part 4, adaptation. So, I'm filming this part before I watched the movie, and I just reread the book, famously. And I've become a fan of Jacob Elordi's work. I have seen him as someone with good taste, and he stands among Margot Robbie in Fennell's upcoming Wuthering Heights. At the same time, Elordi, who was tasked with playing Heathcliff in the film, is a white Australian, not a traveler, not a believable foreigner. Fennell is not the first director to whitewash Heathcliff, but it is a bit more jarring against the many talented actors who could look the part when told they are, quote, a prince in disguise. Your father was emperor of China and your mother an Indian queen, each of them able to buy up with 1 week's income Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange together. This choice is already not a faithful one, but one of fantasy. I don't need this anymore. Perhaps it's another attempt at satire, where she'll continue to offer the most catharsis to the most privileged. The police save the day, and the wealthy can lie and cheat and kill their way to something more. These conclusions are not absurd and sharp and poignant. They are how the world works. The only imagining Fennell can do is not of the past or a future, but suffering. She is an auteur of suffering. Now, that's great news. This should be great news for us, right? Wuthering Heights is the prime text to explore this suffering. A man with external prejudices from the world lives a miserable life and is evil. He unfairly passes his pain on to others. Wonderful, great. This is Fennell's bread and butter. Even after Elordi was casted, I trusted her with the premise. Despite the February release and the sex-forward promotion, I still had some trust for her in this premise. Will I be wrong? Probably. After expanding on what Promising Young Woman and Saltburn do, I do not really expect Wuthering Heights to surpass The Emerald Problem. There will be style, yes, but any consideration beyond the surface will make the movie worse. It will not be faithful in shape or form to the novel, but it will be what Emerald wants to make. It will have her style, and it will hold her problem. I'll report back when I've actually seen it. So, I just got back from the movie, and let me tell you, terrible adaptation. Terrible. The main sort of crux that I came out of the theater thinking about was this attempt at race-blind casting. Emerald, through especially this crux, does not escape the Emerald Problem. There is still only as much politics included as absolutely needed to sort of wink at and suggest a greater political meaning without really giving anything that could, ruffle feathers or producers. It was, again, a choice to do race-blind casting. And I don't think it was a very good one. I don't think Elordi should have taken this role. I don't think Fennell should have offered Elordi this role of Heathcliff. I did like the adolescence boy. He did a good job, I thought, but still that should have been probably someone else. It felt really jarring to be discussing in the detail that she did through this film, class and gender, without mentioning race whatsoever through, brown Mr. Linton and a white Heathcliff. But other than that, like I said, terrible adaptation, but a really good retelling. I really liked it. In about a minute, you're gonna see the fifth part, and I call this video a hater video. I really liked this movie. I thought it was a brilliant sort of reimagining of Wuthering Heights. I thought it was in some ways pretty faithful to the original text while expanding on it in really cool and interesting ways. It's the first of Fennell's movies where I'm I want to go back to it and explore it more. I want to go see that in theaters again. Fennell made a great work of art. And she made a great work of art that I can recommend. So I don't know if I really have anything else to say at the moment. Maybe it is just post-theater jitters and post-theater high. I feel like every time I see a work of art and it's not terrible, I'm this is the best work of art of all time. But I really liked it. And I think a lot of people are going to really like it, especially if they don't know what happens in the book. Like I said, terrible adaptation. Don't watch this movie expecting an adaptation. She sort of primed us for that in the interviews. Think of it as a retelling. That is what the marketing should have been. It is a retelling of Wuthering Heights. Okay, let's move on. Next part.
So are there objective standards or criteria for great art? What makes a great painting?
Again, it's a kind of suck it and see reaction.
Part 5. How to say something true. So, this is now my third hater video, but it's also my first truly negative one. I do not think these movies, for the most part, are worth your time. I do not think they are interesting or important, and based on what I know of Emerald, she wants me and a portion of her viewers to think this, to share our views and bring further shape to her works once we leave the theater. And yet, quite frankly, I think there is better art to be experienced. So here's some that I hope will still be remembered in 10 years. And here's a piece I liked more than Serrano's. Ana Mendida's first work to use blood was an untitled performance piece often referred to as Muerte de un Pollo, or Death of a Chicken. In the video recording of this performance, we see a young Mendita standing naked, holding a beheaded hen by her feet at chest level as the hen flaps her wings around in a desperate response to her captor. She pauses, flaps again, struggling and splattering her blood, staining Mendita's skin. Eventually, the hen stops moving. Then she starts only twitching with the memory of her struggle. Mendita stares down at her, bare and bloody, only taking quick glances toward her audience. Red stains the walls behind her, blood and feathers cover the floor. The hen has made a mess of things. Mendita is left to clean it up. Critics viewed the work as Cubana, a statement on Mendita's identity alongside Santeria rituals. My immediate understanding of the work was more aligned with her own conception, something simpler and taken as much more natural. This work is profane. It reeks of violence, but it does not depict something unique. We do not view the hen's beheading, only the response as she thrashes and struggles against the untouchable Mendita. It is not a decision for her to splatter her blood across the walls to necessitate response from Mendita as she scrubs away the remains of the animal from the room and her hair and her skin. The damn spot will come out. The chicken was not important. Her death had no weight. She was nameless and bound for the butcher. If she didn't die today, she would have tomorrow. She had no future. So violence became acceptable. This is the world. No justice from the police. No justice for the marginalized. Just suffering passed on from those with more power in a moment to those with less. I think I see what she sees now.
It was a very admonitory work. Not a great work, because one wouldn't want to go on looking at it once one had to one's distress seen it once. But I think to call it blasphemous is really rather begging the question. It could be, it could not be. It's what you make of it.